Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to you both. Commissioner, I'm going to come to you. Be quick because the time is short, okay? I'm currently submitting an amendment to the Police and Crime Bill regarding recording of police officer and staff suicide. Three things to say. Do you have sufficient resources to record this? Do you record this? And if you don't, why not?
The numbers are so small. We don't have a particular category, but we would have the data available in our sort of human resources system. So I don't see that as an onerous burden. I think officer and staff welfare, with the trauma that they carry, what they're involved with, the PTSD can build, is important. We put a lot of resources into how we support officers who are assaulted, officers who are dealing with trauma on a regular basis. We talked about sexual exploitation earlier. People wading through these traumatic cases day after day can really affect people. We have a more mature culture than the police service I joined 37 years ago, but you'll see a reference in our second phase of New Met London 2 in terms of looking again at what more we can do in terms of officer wellbeing and support.
With all what you've just said, firstly, how would you know the numbers are so small if you don't record them? And with what you've just said, don't you believe you should record them?
So we record that when we've got our employment, they're recording the organisation. The reason I know they're small is a matter like that, a member of staff or a police officer committing suicide, I get told about. It's the sort of thing that is sufficiently notable that the senior people in the organisation get told about it. We don't have somebody commit suicide and nobody notices. It happens, and so they are small. They are very, very small numbers. I don't have a number I can.
I'm not asking you for a number. That wouldn't be fair. But what I am going to ask you to do is speak to the police fed, because they're very firmly under the impression that you do not record these things. So I'll just leave that with you, something that you can deal with. I want to quickly flip to something else. I understand that officer confidence in using their powers has been declining recently. Are you receiving sufficient political backing from the mayor to properly support your officers? I've spoken to a lot of officers off the record, and some have given me pretty horrific stories where they're having to make a decision about their career or using the powers they have, the preservation of the career. Are you receiving some of these things? Your surveys would suggest that it's true. And what are you and the mayor doing about that?
I think officers' confidence to use their powers and feel supported for split-second decisions made with good intent is really absolutely vital. There's a lot of public debate on those things. It's not for me to comment on politicians, but I and the leadership team do everything possible to make sure officers can see they're supported for those difficult decisions. It's perfectly possible for us to watch something and think, in hindsight, that could have been done differently, but an officer was doing their best on that day, and that should be dealt with by a sort of management conversation, learning, reflection. It's important officers don't feel constrained as they turn up. This morning, I was visiting an officer who was stabbed a couple of days ago, arresting a dangerous person in the house. He's got fairly serious stab injuries to his hand and arm. He's turning up at a dangerous place. Him and his colleague are using force. They're using a taser to contain somebody. I want officers to be confident in using their powers, otherwise they end up with even worse injuries, and they deserve all of that support. And they get it from me, and it's important they get it from all politicians.
But your officers, your surveys, again, I point out the fact your survey suggests, it's just not anecdotal, say that officers don't have that support. They don't feel like they have that support. They do not feel like they're supported by senior officers in particular. They definitely don't feel like they have political cover. And what are you specifically doing to arrest that feeling in your officers, excuse the term, because that is a real danger to the public if an officer will not exercise the powers that we have given them. What are you doing? If you speak to officers, they say some pretty harsh things about senior management. You've got to turn that around.
Yeah. So they see the frank comments we're making on the back of. We've had some recent high-profile cases involving officers prosecuted for driving and the use of force cases, shooting cases, and they have seen how robust I've been in my support of them. As an example, you've seen that we asked and pressed the successive Home Secretaries for what became known as the Accountability Review to rebalance some of the issues that means that the legal system meant that officers using force in split seconds were unfairly scrutinised for extended periods. We've recently had the case of Whiskey 80, who is finally free from the misconduct process 10 years after he shot and killed a potentially armed criminal a decade ago.
I've run out of time.
So I've been fighting for changes to the law, and officers can see that.
I've run out of time, but we will turn to Whiskey 80 and November X-ray 121 as well. Mayor, I'll write to you. You got off on this one. Thank you, Chair.
Let's go to Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. These questions will be mainly directed to the Commissioner. I appreciate the Mayor's heard this before, but the RAC published a list of vehicle crime hotspots across the country, and of the top 10, 7 are in London. 8 are in London, actually 7 are in outer London. Last night I was in Bexley at a Met Engage event and talking to some of the hard-working officers we have in London. I was talking to them about tackling car theft, and they let me know that some of the car manufacturers aren't always so cooperative with the police with requests for car tracking data once the car's been stolen. Is this an issue you're aware of?
I hadn't picked up that particular data. I know we have a very good relationship with some companies, which has led to rapid recoveries of vehicles. I know I've come across cases with stolen vehicles sort of immediately been driven to places where they are then maybe put in a metal shipping container so that the signal no longer works. Also, some of the tracking devices are more easily removable and removed within sort of minutes of the theft, which makes it difficult. So the work with the manufacturers is really important. Some of them are very good at keeping their security systems, the electronic security systems, up to date and improving and ahead of the criminals. Others have been less successful in that. Overall, vehicle crime in London has been falling year on year and continues to do so.
Thank you for your answers, Commissioner. So we know that organised gangs are stealing cars to order and they're stealing them for parts, and we know that this funds criminal activity across London. So by tackling this, we can make London safer in its entirety. So are you confident that you have all the tools you require to tackle this issue, or are gangs currently outpacing the system?
We have... There's nothing leaping out in my mind at the moment in terms of tools and tactics that we're looking for. I'm going to take away your question about whether all manufacturers are as cooperative as they need to be, and I'll double check on that and I'll follow up on that if I need to. But in terms of criminal powers and legislation, we have what we need.
Thank you for that, Matt.
The vehicle crime's down 14% since April this year.
Thank you. So I'm just going to quickly change topic and move on to facial recognition on this, because I've been talking to campaign groups. I think, obviously, we're policed by consent, and that and that's important as technology evolves. So can I just check that you are committed to working with civil liberty groups to ensure that as this is rolled out, it is rolled out in a transparent manner and bringing people along with us?
We've worked extremely hard to be transparent. We've worked with all groups. We saw, for example, we sought involvement of the Equality and Human Rights Commission. I was very disappointed that as a government-funded body they refused to help us with our policies. So we've reached out to all sorts of organisations to assist us. Policing by consent is important. 85% of the public support this in surveys. So the fact there may be a few lobbying groups who are hostile to it, I'm more attuned to the fact that 85% of the people are supportive. It went down extraordinarily well at Notting Hill Carnival, the safest carnival we've had for some time. The communities were really pleased with it. We've arrested nearly 1,000 people over the last year, serious offenders, sex offenders, including a registered sex offender who had befriended a mother and child. It's generating big results for London, and officers are really enjoying the operations because they're so successful, and it leads to them almost exclusively stopping guilty criminals and not making any mistakes on the streets, because it's more accurate than any human being can be.
In this session, the discussion highlighted major concerns around police officer well-being, the recording of suicides, and the need for stronger support systems. The Commissioner emphasized that while cases are rare, the emotional burden and trauma officers face remain significant, and more work is being done to improve welfare and confidence. Questions were also raised about political backing, with surveys suggesting many officers feel unsupported in using their powers, an issue the leadership continues to address. The conversation then shifted to rising vehicle crime in London, the challenges posed by organised gangs, and the need for better cooperation from car manufacturers. Although overall vehicle crime has fallen, the Commissioner acknowledged areas where improvements may still be needed. Finally, the debate touched on the growing use of facial recognition technology. While widely supported by the public, concerns from civil liberty groups highlight the importance of transparency as this technology expands. Do you believe the growing use of technologies like facial recognition will strengthen public safety, or raise more concerns about privacy and trust in policing? If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss our next political update.